Hi, my name is Steven Siciliano, and today I'm going to be talking about how you can be empowered with automation through Microsoft Power Automate. Now, let's start with thinking about why automation is so important. The reason automation is important is because it can free you from manual, repetitive tasks that you have to do every single day. People would much rather focus on things where we can provide unique value, like strategic thinking, creativity. But oftentimes we have to waste our time copying and pasting data, doing those manual repetitive things over and over again. And that's what's so exciting about automation is it can remove those manual tasks from you and instead let the computer do that on your behalf, and you can focus on being creative yourself. Now, what we've done is we've created Power Automate. And what's so exciting about Power Automate is it's a platform that enables anybody to be successful with automation. For example, think about citizen developers. Citizen developers are the people inside an organization who are closest to the business problems. They know exactly what it is that needs to be done every single day because they're the ones doing it. So what we've done is we've created a low-code automation platform that makes it possible for all of these people. The citizens are the everyday person inside an organization that wants to be able to build out automation for their own purposes. But it doesn't stop there. There are also lots of professional developers who want to use Power Automate as well. And the reason they do is because it's so much faster than writing solutions by hand using code and tools like Visual Studio. Now, the citizen developers, they don't need to have any of those skills. A citizen developer can just get started without having any experience with Visual Studio or other tools and capabilities. But as a professional developer, if you do have those skills, that makes it even more powerful. What's particularly exciting is you can use your skills as a professional developer to expose reusable building blocks to the citizen developers so that way they can be even more productive. And last but not least is the IT administrators. IT administrators are absolutely essential because they can make sure that the organization is following the right policies and procedures as it builds out the automation infrastructure that it needs. IT admins can, of course, use Power Automate for their own ends, but they also can make sure that everything is managed centrally because Power Automate fundamentally runs in the cloud. Now let's think about the different pieces of Power Automate. Power Automate is not just automation on an island. It's in fact an interconnection of many different technologies. There's RPA, which is robotic process automation that you've probably heard a lot about recently. And what RPA allows you to do is to automate any modern or legacy application. There's, of course, artificial intelligence, which also has a ton of hype. And with artificial intelligence, you can get access to data that would have been impossible to access previously. DPA stands for Digital Process Automation, the ability to connect to services that have APIs. BPM is Business Process Management. And then there's a new capability that we just announced late last year in Power Automate that helps with process mining. Diving into these more specifically, RPA is leveraging the interactions with the user interface that a person would normally do by copying those same interactions with a software bot. This bot, once you've taught it what to do, can repeat that same process over and over again. And what's great about this is it works with any application that you can use. So if you're using modern or legacy applications like SAP, a terminal server, green screens, Java applications, old web applications, Win32 applications, all of those are possible to automate using Power Automate Desktop, which is our RPA client that runs on Windows. Next is the AI Builder capabilities that we have. AI Builder is like the rest of the Power Platform in that it allows anybody who, even if you don't have any data science expertise, to get started with AI capabilities. What's great about AI Builder is it allows you to look at the data that currently is locked up in things like physical paper. If you have receipts that you want to process, or you have ID cards, or you have forms, invoices, all of these different things historically have required somebody to literally look at that piece of paper and type it into a terminal. No longer do you have to do that manual task. With AI Builder, you can actually automatically extract all of the content from that and send it into your automated systems. It's very powerful. Next is the digital process automation capabilities. We have over 400 different connectors today. And these connectors connect to everything from Microsoft systems to also a variety of third-party systems that are out there. So even if you don't use Microsoft systems today, you can leverage Power Automate to connect to the systems that you do use. Now, the capabilities of cloud flows with digital process automation make it possible to have triggers that respond to events in these different systems. These triggers are events. So it could be things like a new email arriving, a new record being added to a database. All of these events can kick off automation that you need to go run. And then they can take any one of thousands of different actions that we have. These actions can update data, they can read data, they can do searches, they can post new tweets. Really anything you can think of that's possible in these 400 services is exposed as an action that you can call. And to get started, we have thousands of pre-built templates that make it incredibly easy to kick off a complex process by just filling in the things that you need to get started. Together, digital process automation and the Cloudflow's capability inside of Power Automate make it possible to automate any modern system in an intelligent and easy way without writing a single line of code. Next, we have the business process management capability inside of Power Automate, and this is powered by something called business process flows. These business process flows are built in a way to help you take processes that people manually walk through step by step and formalize that process so that way it can be digitized. When you have an approval process, for example, you may have different layers of management who need to handle that approval process. That can now be formalized in that business process flow. And when you do so, you can connect it with the other types of flows that we have. So you can have an automated step that kicks off when your boss approves that purchase order before it gets sent to their boss. This interconnectivity between the different types of processes that you can build inside of Power Automate is what makes it really unique and powerful. Then the last capability is the Process Advisor that we announced late last year. Process Advisor makes it possible for you to record the processes that you're doing every single day. And then you can upload and share that recording with other people and get insights into what is going on in that process. It generates visualizations that show you each of the stages of that process. You could see variations between you and your colleagues, the different parts of the process that are walked through. And then you can even see recommendations on how to improve the process based on where you're spending a lot of time, things that you could potentially do better. So together, those make up the big pieces of Power Automate. But I have some exciting news to talk about today, which is Power Automate Desktop. Those RPA capabilities are now included in Windows 10. What that means is every Windows 10 user out there can download Power Automate Desktop at no additional cost and get started with those robotic process automation capabilities. In addition, Power Automate Desktop will be included in future builds of Windows. So soon, Windows insiders will see Power Automate Desktop running right on their box when they want. This means that the billion people out there who use Windows, they can now get easy access to Power Automate Desktop. Power Automate Desktop makes it super easy to get started by having that low-code interface like everything else inside of Power Automate. It has over 400 different actions that connect to your Windows PC, working with everything from files and folders to system settings to applications running in Windows like Excel. And anybody can get started today by downloading it from the link right there on the slide. So I'm really excited to see what people will start building with Power Automate Desktop now that it's more accessible than ever before. But it doesn't stop there. We also have premium capabilities that you've been able to use since the release of Power Automate Desktop last year that will remain as part of the premium Power Automate offering. And these capabilities build even more on top of Power Automate Desktop. For example, you can collaborate now with other people building out those desktop flows that you want to. You can also get analytics and visibility into everything that's happening with the desktop flows running inside of your organization. And you can even trigger cloud flows and desktop flows together. So that way you can build processes that hand back and forth between using those connectors in the cloud and running something on your desktop. Beyond even these capabilities, one of the new things that we announced is the ability to monitor in extreme detail everything that's happening from your desktop flows that are running in the Power Automate portal. For example, you can see a list of every single desktop flow run, what has happened, what its status is, what machine it's running on, and you can even drill into a specific machine and see all of the work that's going in on that machine. For example, to see if there's a bunch of work waiting for a particular resource to be available. These capabilities are uniquely made possible by running Power Automate as a cloud service and connecting to that Power Automate desktop client running on everybody's Windows PCs. The other note I'd like to make here is those rich administrative capabilities that are there. It goes beyond just being able to monitor. It also allows you to create proactive policies to govern what type of data you can connect to. Of course, everything inside of Power Automate is richly built on Azure Active Directory, like hopefully everything here at Ignite. And in doing so, that means it inherits things like the ability to use security groups and role-based access control. But it's much more because it also leverages the capabilities of Dataverse to be able to manage everything that's going on inside of your cloud infrastructure. All of this together has created a really robust premium offering for robotic process automation, building on top of Power Automate Desktop. With that, I'm going to switch into a demo and show you about how one particular customer is really taking advantage of these capabilities inside of Power Automate. In this demo, I'm going to be talking about Farmscript. They have a process for end-of-month billing reports that start when a file is uploaded to SharePoint. But before diving into the process, let's take a little bit deeper look at what Power Automate has to offer. As I mentioned before, it has digital process automation, which makes it easy to get started using any of the 400 connectors that we have. You can see here triggers that can kick off a flow based on an automated event, including that SharePoint trigger that we're going to use. There's also templates that make it very easy for anybody to get started by using these pre-packaged scenarios that work out of box. Next, we have AI Builder, which is a great way to use artificial intelligence to extract information from data sources that you don't have a normal way to call an API to get from. For example, we have these pre-built models that are now available for things like invoice processing and receipt processing that can automatically extract the information from these and use them in your processes. One of the newest capabilities we have is called document automation. And this is a pre-packaged solution that combines together AI Builder, Power Automate, and Power Apps to create a single solution that lets you automate document processing. This solution you can install very easily from the Power Platform Admin Center with that one click. And once you have it installed, it creates a Power App for you that lets you monitor and manage documents that you're processing. Now, thinking specifically of Farmscript, what they needed is they needed a way to automate the process of these end-of-month billing reports. And in doing so, they wanted to first understand where the bottlenecks were in that process. So they use Process Advisor. Process Advisor allows you to upload recordings of people walking through that process manually themselves. And then it generates analytics based on these uploaded recordings. The analytics can help you to identify what's working for the process, what isn't. It pinpoints areas of inefficiencies, allowing the team to better run the process. In particular, you can see here where time is being spent and if there are different variations of the process that need to be walked through. This is just some sample data, but what Farmscript found is that every month they're spending about 135 hours on this process, and 90 of them could be automated. So what they are going to do is build an automated flow that's going to go and kick off this process, and then it's going to run a desktop flow to be able to run in the application system that they have. So let's build this automated flow. Like I mentioned, it triggers based on a new record being added into that SharePoint folder. In the Cloudflow Designer here, I can very easily select from all of my different SharePoint sites. I can browse the folders that are in that SharePoint site and select the particular folder that's going to be containing these orders at the end of the month. Now I can call that desktop flow. There's a desktop flow connector, very easy to use, and this will run a flow built with Power Automate Desktop. When I open this up, it shows me the different flows that I have inside of Power Automate Desktop, and I can choose whether to run this attended or unattended. Unattended would be running in the background, and attended runs it when I have this flow in my machine itself. Next, I can choose to pass in data to the flow. For example, I'm going to pass in the file name for the process that I want to run here. Sometimes the data that you get in needs to be changed in order to be able to use it elsewhere in the flow. For example, you may need to remove or replace a part of the string. You can use expressions to do that, and we have IntelliSense built right into Power Automate, so that way it shows you what all the different formulas are and what they can do. You may also want to get additional assistance building out your processes. So we recently released a chatbot powered by Power Virtual Agents right inside of the Power Automate Designer. What this allows you to do is to have a conversation with the bot, and it can suggest different ways that it can help you. Let's say we want to add that email in and put images in it. This walks through the exact steps that you'll need to do in order to have that work inside of your process. This is the newest way to get assistance building out your processes. But with that, I think we're pretty much done with this flow that triggers that desktop flow. So we'll give it a name so that way we can easily refer to it in the future. And then we should be good to go. Once we've saved this flow, let's take a look at the desktop flow that's running in Power Automate Desktop. Power Automate Desktop is, of course, the new capability that's available for all Windows users, like I announced. So every Windows user can use this rich desktop experience to build and run their flows. So this is an existing Power Automate Desktop flow that's been created at Farmscript. And in fact, this flow was created by a process specialist named Glendale. Glendale doesn't have any advanced technical or engineering background, but she was still able to use Power Automate Desktop because it has this simple drag and drop interface that you can see here. It's not complicated. It lets people build their flows as they need. The first thing that she did is she broke up the full process into subflows, and she determined what data would need to be passed into this flow for it to run. For example, that file name, we need to pass it in so that way the desktop flow, when it runs, can use that information. Next, she wants to launch Excel so that way we can actually go and get the information from that Excel workbook. You can see how easy it would be to just add this step in. I just search in the list of all the different actions that I have. I drag that into the canvas, and then I choose which Excel file to launch. Different actions here can be used to work with Excel worksheets, read data, write data into the worksheet, and then ultimately take the data from here and put it into their legacy system called Framework. Now, once all of these different subflows have been created, we can run the flow. Running the flow lets us watch it go. As you can see here, every single action that it's running. As it ran, you can see it populated all of the data that it was able to pull from that Excel workbook here in the variables on the side of the screen. And we can compare this to the actual worksheet that we have here that we're pulling the data from, and we can very easily see that the data matches what we wanted to pull. So now that we've built the first part of this flow, we're actually going to switch over to a different flow that has the full details, including connecting to that framework system that Glendale built. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and add a file to that folder in SharePoint to kick off this process end to end. When this process runs, we'll be able to watch it because it's running in an attended way, in this case, on a different machine. So let's switch over to that machine and watch it go. Now, the full end-to-end process has a few different stages in it. First, the data has to be validated. Then it has to be entered into the framework application so that way the reports can be generated. as a part of this process, the data also needs to be reconciled. So you can see here, Power Automate Desktop is driving the user interface of this legacy application. It's opening up menus, looking at dialogues, windows, and probably most importantly, it's reliably going to enter the data into each of the fields inside of this application here. These windows are popping up, and Power Automate Desktop has to be able to respond to these in order to handle the appropriate events. But as it goes through here, you can see it's reliably entering all of this information and taking the time that would normally be done by people, just wasting a bunch of time on this process. Now it can be done in the background without any human involvement at all. This is really a huge time saver so that Farmscript can spend time on improving patient health instead of wasting time on just manual data entry into these legacy systems. So that's the process. And the last thing that we'd like to touch on is how you can monitor and manage these processes from the cloud. Now, this is a premium capability, but once you have it, you can actually come and see all of your desktop flow runs across all of the flows that you've created. You can filter by different statuses. So for example, you only want to see the runs that have failed in a particular time range. We have all of the great advanced filtering there. But in this case, let's take a look at the most recent run that succeeded and see the details inside of that. You can see every single action that this flow ran when it was on the desktop, as well as the inputs and outputs for every action. In summary, Glendale was able to use the different parts of Power Automate to take this end-of-month billing process and automate it, saving 90 hours every month, despite having no advanced technical background. So next, what I'd like to talk about is how Power Automate integrates with the rest of the Microsoft ecosystem. First of all, Power Automate is part of the Microsoft Power Platform. And what that means is you can use low-code capabilities, not just for your automation scenarios, but for a bunch of different scenarios. For example, with Power BI, you can use the low-code capabilities to get dashboards and reports to analyze the data of what's going on inside of your business. With Power Apps, you can build rich web or mobile applications. And in doing so, you can create tailored experiences unique for your organization. Again, without writing a single line of code. That's the commonality here, bringing these pieces together. And there's a newer capability called Power Virtual Agents that lets you build interactive chatbots that can be used as a part of applications or in a standalone way to be able to have conversations with end users as a way to collect information or to get support. Of course, what's particularly valuable about these pieces is that although they are independently valuable, together they can integrate in such a way as to be very, very powerful. For example, you can have automation that runs in response to a number of these different pieces. For example, I can have a chat that can kick off an automation. Let's say that I'm having a chat about a support case. I want to collect some information from some legacy support system and display it to the user in the chat. You can actually do that by having a flow that responds to that chat message that then goes and uses RPA to automate that legacy system, pull that data from, and then display it to the end user. You can have that exact same thing happen from an app or from a dashboard. All of these different pieces connect together so that way Power Automate can really be that hub that connects to all of the data that you have inside of your business and then be exposed up through different types of interfaces like dashboards, applications, and chat conversations. But it doesn't stop there. With Microsoft 365, Dynamics, and Azure, we have even additional integrations. For example, if you have data today inside SharePoint, you can use Power Automate to manage all of that data with those files, those list items, in a way to automate it just like you would previously with SharePoint workflow. It's the exact same thing with Dynamics. There's Dynamics workflow, but now with Power Automate, you can automate the data that's there and connect it very easily to all of the other data you have inside of your organization. And these entry points are right inside the interface for OneDrive, for SharePoint, for Dynamics. So that way it's super easy to get started. We even have extensibility into Azure, which makes it possible to build things like Azure functions and then use them as building blocks inside of Power Automate and the other pieces of the Power Platform. But one of the integrations that I want to touch on that I'm most excited about is Microsoft Teams. As you can imagine, with the change in the environment over the past year, Microsoft Teams has gotten a lot of usage, and we wanted to make sure that we could create an automation platform that works very well inside of Microsoft Teams. So over the past year, we've added a number of capabilities, such as the ability to run a workflow right from a message inside of Microsoft Teams. In addition, we created a new app that is inside of Microsoft Teams for building flows. And this new app has a very streamlined experience that makes it super easy for anybody to get started. Going back to the title of this session, it's about democratizing automation to empower everybody. And these super easy to get started experiences inside of Microsoft Teams are one great example of that. But the one I'm most excited about is the new Approvals app inside of Microsoft Teams. What this allows you to do is to kick off an approval request right from the Teams message. So if you have Microsoft Teams, there's that little approvals icon that sits at the bottom of the message. And when you click that, it pops open a window that you can send an approval request to anybody inside of your company. This is built on the same approvals technology that we've had inside of Power Automate for a number of years, but now it's tailored to Microsoft Teams, so it's super easy to get started. You can upload files just like you would expect, determine who it gets sent to, add additional details, and bam, that approval is sent to that colleague inside of Teams. In addition, there's also a consolidated approvals hub that they can go to inside of Teams where they can see all of the approvals requests that they've received and very easily manage the history of it, approve, reject, whatever it is that they want to do with that approvals request. Again, entirely inside of Teams, making it easier for everybody to get started with automation. So with that, we've reached the end of the session. I want to make sure that everybody takes advantage of the great learning capabilities that are out there. So there's Microsoft Learn, and we have a very rich community that anybody can join. There's a blog where we talk about all of the new capabilities that are coming. And the thing that I just want to really emphasize is we have Power Automate Desktop available as a download today for anybody with Windows 10. So I'd recommend going to the link on the slide here and getting started with Power Automate Desktop today. Thank you very much.